to my YouTube channel. So recently, I actually applied to a company to be their senior data analyst. So I was called for an interview, right? So it was a virtual assessment. So I was called for a virtual assessment. I was given a data set to actually work on. So I was able to actually work on this data set, handle the project, and I sent back to the organization. So after sending this assessment to the organization, we had another virtual interview where I was asked a couple of questions about my location and all. So in this tutorial, I'm going to be showing you the assessment that was given to me by this company. It's actually a big company. So I'll be showing you the assessment that was given to me by this company and how I tackled the assessment. But before we get started, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Thank you so much for watching. So this is the assessment questions, right? So I was given a data set and I was actually asked to answer these questions. Okay. Now the first thing I was asked to do was to build a relational database using my SQL with the data sets I was provided with. The second was I should write SQL queries to answer the following: identify the most churned category across all segments, calculate the total number of churned customers, determine the overall number of customers, and create a Power BI report for the analysis. And when you look at this instruction, you'll see that the instruction clearly mentioned that I should use the MySQL database. It mentioned the MySQL database should be used, not MSSQL or any other or PostgreSQL. It says the MySQL database should be used. Okay. Now, the first thing I would like us to do is I would like us to actually analyze the data sets. Now, I was actually given two data sets. The first one was the dictionary, okay? Dictionary data set that actually explains the main data set I should be working with. Now, let's go ahead and analyze it. Now, this is the dictionary data set I was given. Now, this data set gives me description to each column, okay, in the main data set. So it gives me description to each column in the main data set. So this was called the main data set dictionary. Now, this is the main data set I was given. So when you look at it, you'll see that it is a relatively large data set. It is over 10,000 rows. Now, let's look at this. So this is the various columns we have in the data set. So is the customer ID. This is the surname, credit score, geography, gender, age, tenure, balance, number of products, has credit card, is active member, existed, estimated salary, and exited. So now when you look at the data set, you'll see that it is quite a large data set, right? It is about over 10,000 columns. Sorry, it is about over 10,000 rows. Now, I mentioned that I actually made a mistake when performing this analysis. Now, the thing is, I won't say it was a mistake because I caught it, right? But I felt like because it did not actually affect my analysis, why should I handle it? Now, I should have done either of these two things. Number one, if I felt like this doesn't actually affect my analysis, it would have been wise for me to let the interviewer know. At least in my report, I should have notified them that yes, I caught this. But because it doesn't directly affect my analysis, I decided to leave it unhandled. At least I should have specified that on my report. Secondly, which is the first option I should have gone for, was I should have actually gone ahead to handle it, right? Why should I have gone ahead to handle it? I applied for the role of a data analyst. And one of the major duty of a data analyst is ensuring that the data set is free from errors. Now, I believe that they were just trying to test my data cleaning skill and to test my analytical skill and my attention to details, right? So I was actually supposed to go ahead and do a thorough data cleaning, even though that particular column does not affect my analysis. Now, let me show you the mistake I made. Now, when you look at the surname column, you'll see that we have rows like this. Now, it is not just one row with this error. We have several rows like that with this error. Now, it is not like during my analysis, I did not patch these rows. Of course, I noticed them. But at that moment, I was actually juggling between a lot of projects and I was given a tight deadline to actually submit this. this assessment. So I felt like, okay, I should just leave it out since I'm not practically working with the school. I should just leave it out and go ahead with my analysis. And that was one of the big mistake I made. So, like I mentioned, even if I decided to leave it out, I should have specified it in my Power BI reports that I noticed these columns, but I purposely left it out because it does not affect my analysis. Or better still, they should have just gone ahead to handle it. I'm applying for the role of the data analyst, right? And one of the major skills with the data analyst is thorough data cleaning, right? So how do I prove to my interviewer that I understand the role of the data analyst, that I can handle a messed up data set if I did not handle it during my interview? Now, this was one of the major mistakes I made that I felt cost me this job, aside from my location. Now let's go ahead and analyze the columns. Now this is actually a bank data set, right? The bank is actually trying to understand their customers, how much of customers they have lost, how much of customers they have gained, and where the customers that have lost came from, and the rest of them. Now, when you look at this customer ID, well, we all know that this is the unique identifier for each customer. This is our primary key. So when building our relational database, this is our primary key, right? Now, surname, this is the surname for each customer. Credit score, this is the credit score for each customer. When we are talking about credit score, we are talking about the ability of customers to borrow and repay their loan. So this credit score simply means the customer's credit worthiness. Okay. Now geography. This is actually the location of this is actually the location of the customer. Now from here we can actually see that the bank has three major locations, which is Spain, France, and Germany. Right? Now gender, of course, female and male. Now when we look at the age, this gives us the age of each customer. Then tenure simply means how many years a customer has actually stayed with the bank. Here we can see 2 years, 8 years, 10 years, 7 years, 5 years, and the rest of them. Now, balance. This is the customer's balance at the time of this analysis. Number of products. This is the number of products used by the customer. Now, like I mentioned, I was actually given a dictionary. Now, let's go to the table. I already explained that. Now, number of products. They say the number of bank products the customer uses, e.g., savings accounts, credit card, etc. Now, let's go back to the data set. Now, has credit card. Now, when you look at this, you see that this column was encoded. Has credit card, one is yes, zero is no. Is active member, that means is the customer still with the bank, where one stands for yes and zero stands for no. Now this is estimated salary. This is like the estimated salary of each customer. Exited. This simply means has the customer churned, that means has the customer left the bank or not. One being yes and zero being no. Now, as you can see, the first task was to build a relational database using MySQL. Now, to build a relational database using my SQL, the first thing we have to do is install the database. Now, I'm going to be leaving the documents in the description of the video, so you can always go back to the assessment question and also go back to some important links. Now, to actually work with MySQL, you need to download the MySQL database, right? And you access that using XAMPP. Now, because I've already installed this, there will be no need for me to install it again. But I will just show you how to do it. Now, once you copy the link, you go over here and paste it, then you run it. Now, once that opens up, what you have to do is you download the one that is suitable for your device. Now, if you're using a Windows, you go here and download for Windows. If you're using a Linux, you go here and download for it. If you're using an OX, you go here and download for it. Now, because I was using a Windows, I just clicked here and downloaded it. Now, because I've already downloaded this, there will be no need for me to download it anymore, right? Now, once you finish downloading it, all you have to do is go ahead and install it, right? You go ahead and install it following the instructions and the prompts. Now, once you have successfully installed it, the first thing you have to do is, let me go ahead and open mine. So once you install it, you go ahead and open it, right? Now, once you go ahead and open it, you will see an interface like this. Now, what you have to do is go ahead and start Apache and also go ahead and start MySQL. Now, once you have turned on the Apache and MySQL, the next thing you have to do is go back here, right? Now, go back here, then you copy this link, right? Now, this link is a link to PHP admin where we can actually run our SQL queries and also build our relational database. Now, what you have to do is open a new tab and paste this thing, open it. Now, this has actually taken us to our PHP My Admin server. Now, this is where we can actually perform our SQL assessments. Once you open this, it takes you here. Now, this is actually where we build. Now, this is where we perform all our SQL assessments. Now, the first thing we have to do is create a new database. So we can simply come over here to create a new database, or we can simply go over here to create a new database. All right. But let's just click here and create a new database. Now, when we click here, it asks us for our database name. Now, you now let's go ahead and name this. Let's go ahead and name this churn analysis. Right. Now, once you finish naming it, the next thing we have to do is go ahead and create it. Now, when you create it, that the new database, it will actually take you to this. It will actually take you to this interface. Now, this is asking you the number of columns you have. Now, you have to go to the data set. When you go to the data set, now let's count the number of columns we have. Now, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So we have 13 columns. So what we have to do is come over here and say 13, right? Now, then it will ask you table name. So let's call this customers table. Let's call this customer table. Okay, now let's go ahead and create this. So once you actually click on create, it takes you to this interface, right? Now this is where you enter all the information in this data set. Okay, now when you look at this, you see that we are trying to create the column 1, right? We are trying to create the column 1. And when you look at our data set, you will see that the first column we have is actually our customer ID, correct? Now, let's go back to our PHP. Now, the first column is our customer ID. So all we have to do is copy the column name, paste it here. Now, it is asking us type. This is where we enter our data type. Okay, this is where we enter our data type. Okay, now when you look at this, you find out that the default data type is integer, which is actually correct for our customer ID because our customer ID is an integer. Okay, so length slash values, you can actually leave it that way. So once you click on next, it will take you to this interface. Now, this is actually where you put down all the information about your data sets. Okay, so we are going to be working with these data sets. So we are going to be inputting the information of in these data sets. So we are going to be inputting the information on these data sets right here. Okay. Now, when you look at this, this is actually telling us the count of the column we are working on. As you can see, this is 1, which means we are working on the first column. Okay. Now, when you look here, this actually tells you the information you need to input. Okay. So as we go ahead working on this, you understand it better. Now, the first column we have is the customer ID, right? Now, let's just go ahead and close this dictionary. Now, the first column you have is the customer ID, okay? Now we can simply go here, copy the name of those column, then we go back to this, then we'll paste it here. Okay. Now the default data type is integer. Okay. Now we are going to leave this as integer because our customer ID is an integer. But when you look here, you see various data types here. So this is actually where you choose the data type of your column. Now, but for the sake of this particular column, we are going to be leaving it as integer because our customer ID is an integer. Now, length values, we are going to leave this blank for this. Now, default, we are also going to leave it the way it is. Collation, this is for text columns, so we are going to leave it the way it is because this is an integer column. The attributes, we are going to be leaving it the way it is also. Then no, we are going to be leaving this unchecked. You check this when your column is likely to have null values. But because customer ID is the unique identifier, and in the customer ID column, we can't have null values. Okay, so we are going to leave this unchecked, right? So we are going to leave this unchecked. Okay. So index, we are going to say primary because this particular customer ID is our primary key. Okay. Now for this AI simply means automatic increment. Yes, auto increment. As you can see, when I click on it, it shows it auto increment. So for this, our customer ID, which is our primary key column, we are going to be clicking it. Now, what does this automatic increment do? This automatic increment ensures that each value automatically increases by 1 for each new row. Okay. So for comments, comment is optional. Okay. So you can decide to add comments or not. So for this, we can simply say unique identifier for each customer, unique identifier for each customer. So now let's go to column number 2, right? Now let's go to our data sets. Now column number 2 is the surname. So we can simply go here, copy it and paste it here. Okay. Now surname is Now for surname, we are going to be using voucher. Okay. Now length, we are going to be saying 50. Then default is none. Collation, like I mentioned, that collation is actually for text columns, right? So for collation, we are going to be using the UTF-8M before general CI. Okay. So we are going to be looking for that. Okay. So UTF-8. Okay, so this is the one we are going to be using. For attributes, we are leaving it the way it is. Then for now, we are going to be checking that. So for this, you can simply add comments to it, or you can simply leave it blank. So we can simply say customer's surname. Okay. Now let's move on to the next column. So the next column is our credit score. Okay. So we can simply copy that and paste it here. Right? Now this is integer, so we are going to be leaving it that way. Then we are going to be leaving this the same way. We are going to be leaving this blank, leaving this blank, and we are going to be checking this. Okay. Now the next thing we have to the next column is geography, right? So for geography, we can simply go here and impute it, okay, and we change it to varchar. Then we can say net is equals to 50. Then default none, then we check no, right? Then we can simply add comments or not, okay? It's optional. Now for this, we are also going to be using the UF8M before, okay? For geography, UF8 general, okay? Then the next column is we are going to be going over to our gender. So we copy it, then we paste it here, gender. So we say, so gender, so we say varchar, then we leave it at, let's say 20, or let's say 10, right? Then we use, of course, just the same one we have been using. okay, general CI. Then we we check this because we can actually have more columns, right? Then every other thing can be left the same. So the next thing is we have to move on to A. So we go over here and paste it age. So age integer, which is correct. Then of course we take here no, right? Then the next one is let's go over to tenor, which is also an integer. So we just paste this here, integer, then we'll leave this blank, then we check here. Then we also have to go over to balance, which is a decimal. So we go over here and put this here balance. Then we go to decimal. So decimal. So in the let's go up. So in the length slash values, what we do is we set 10, okay, by 2. Okay. So this simply means a total of 10 figures and 2 decimal points, right? Then we go ahead and click this. Then let's move on to the next column. So the next column is number of products. Okay. So we go ahead and paste this here, number of products, and that should be an integer. Then we click here. Then the next one is has credit card. Then let's go over here and let's paste those has credit card integer, which is also correct. Then we go ahead and click this. Now let's go over to the next one, which is active member. Then we go ahead and paste it here. Then integer. Then we go ahead and say no. Click it. Then next column we have is our estimated salary. Then we go ahead and we paste it here, right? Integer. No, this should be decimal. Okay. Now let's go back to confirm that. So this is decimal, okay? So what we have to do is we say a total of 10 figures and 2 decimal points. 2 decimal points. Then we go ahead and check this. Okay. Now let's move on. Now let's say exited is okay. Now when you look at this, there is something we are actually missing out on. We are actually making a mistake on something. Now, when you look at this, let's go back to this. When you look at this, you say has credit card, right? It says one for yes, zero to zero for no. Now, this automatically makes this a boolean, not a text. Okay, is active one for yes, zero for no. So this automatically makes this a boolean. The same thing for exited. So that's a mistake we are making over here. Now, has credit card, we should say this is a boolean, right? Be a boolean, not not an integer. Okay. Now, is active member, this should also be a boolean, yes, no. Okay, estimated salary is correct. Then the last column is exited, so this should also be a boolean, right? Now, this should also be clicked no. As you can see, we have actually successfully filled in our entire. So after we have successfully inputted all our columns accordingly, we just have to go down here and save. So we wait for that to save. Okay. Now, as you can see, we have successfully created our table. Okay, we have successfully created our table. Now, the next thing we have to do is import our data set. Okay, so that's the next thing we have to do. We have to import our data set. So we're already in the customer table. Okay, so to import our data set, what we have to do is go to import. Okay, then we choose the file. So this is the document we are importing. So we open it. Okay. Now, what we have to do is do a couple of default settings. Okay. So for this, we are going to be leaving it as this, right? We are going to be leaving it as this. Okay. Then format should be CSV. So this is correct. Enclose with this, we leave it that way. Then line terminator error. So column names here, we just go ahead and insert our column names. Okay. So here we just go ahead and insert our column names. And why are we inserting the column names here? So what this does, it makes the first column the header. We are just going to go and copy the column name, right? So we just copy the column names. So we copy them, right? Then we just come over here. Okay, now we just come over here and we'll paste it. Okay, then we can just insert a comma, then a comma, then a comma, a comma, balance, number of products, house credit card, is active member, estimated salary, then exited. Okay, so after this, we are just going to go ahead and import our data. So let's see if that works. So we just wait for it to import the data set. So, so as you can see, import has been successfully finished, right? That means we have imported 10,001 queries, okay? So it has been executed. So for this now, it simply means that we have successfully created a relational database. Okay, we have successfully created a relational database using MySQL. So that means the first task has been completed. Okay, now the next task is task number 2, which they say write queries to answer the following: identify the most churned category across all segments, calculate the total number of churned customers, determine the overall number of customers, right? So let's go ahead and do that. So we go to SQL, right? So this is actually where we write our queries. So as you can see, this is our data set was successfully imported. So this is it. So this is where we write our queries. So the first thing I want us to calculate is total number of churned customers. Total, or what am I typing? Total churned customer, right? Total churned customers. Now to do that, we say select count, count star, right? And we declare a variable, let's say as total churned, total churned, right? Where exited, exited is equals to 1. Now let's run this. So we actually encountered an error. They said unknown column exited. Okay. Oh, we forgot to add from customer, of course, our table. Now let's go ahead and run this again. Now, as you can see, it has given us the total number of churned customers, right? Now let's go ahead and the next thing we have to calculate is total customers, right? Total customers. And to do that, we say select count star, right? And we declare variable and say total customers, right? Total customers from customer table. Now let's go ahead and run this. Now this gives us our total number of customers, okay? Now, the next one we have to go ahead and calculate is, let's check that out. So the next one should be identify the most churned category across all segments. Now, to me, I interpreted this as calculating the total number of churned customers across all geography, right? That was where how I interpreted it as. Now, for us to calculate the total number of churned customers across all geographical location, total churn. Let's say total churn by geography, by geography, right? So we say this is select count star, all right, as no, this should be select geography because we are calculating for geography. So we say select geography, right? Then we say count star as, let's say, churned churned count, okay? Then we say table, from customers table, okay, where exited, okay, exited should be equals to 1, which is yes. Then we have to group it by geography, right? And we order by churn count, order by churn count, okay. Then we say order by churn count, this should be descending. Okay, now let's run this. So this will give us the total number of churn customers per country. So as you can see, we have Germany 1814, 810, and 413. So with this now, we have successfully come to the end of my SQL task. Okay, so in the next video, we are going to be creating a Power BI report for this analysis.